And I've always said this, I've never bet. When I first started at VSiN, I had to learn the lingo, the overs, the unders, the points. Like I never really did that. My job in the National Football League was breaking down teams, was understanding team A, team B, team C, even though I worked for team Y. And so it was always understanding matchup, understanding players and plays. It's about the matchups, and being in the NFL for 35 years, studying personnel, studying players and plays draws you into that matchup, which leads you into breaking down games, which is essentially handicapping. I think Cleveland was a team that looks better on tape to me. I think they have the elements to play Kansas City. I tend to work backwards. Like, one of the things about watching the playoff games again, I learned this from Al Davis, is it allows you to kind of take a peek back into the season and understand what you have to do to win. If Al were alive today, his whole focus and emphasis would be on how are we going to stop Mahomes? How are we going to stop Kelsey? How are we going to stop Tyreek Hill? That would be all he'd talk about. Cleveland has a team that can do that. They can control the ball for 34 minutes on the ground with their passing game, with their run game. When I go through it all, I think Green Bay, really, when they watched that tape of how poorly they played, how poorly they game planned, how poorly they called the game plan, how poorly they executed the middle eight, which is what I wrote about in my book, Gridiron Genius. It's the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. The middle eight is really the essence of football. And when you lose the middle eight, when you give up points and give up points twice, like the Packers did in that game, they give up a touchdown, they turn it over, give up another touchdown. They lost 14 points. Packers can kick themselves for that. So I know they were 13-3, but they had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl and they really let it slip away. I think Indianapolis is a sleeper team. I think Indianapolis is really good. I think Indy's really good in the kicking game. Nobody wants to talk about the kicking game, but they're really good in the kicking game. Their defensive front's going to be really good. And I also think that if they get the kind of play that Carson Wentz is capable of, when he was the MVP of the league before he got hurt, he was averaging 7.5 yards per attempt down the field. Last year for the Eagles, because he got hit so much, he was at 6.0. So I think the Colts will benefit from their protection, their run game. I think they're a really good team that I think can really take off next year. The one thing we learned, everybody should learn through watching football through the years, when you run the ball, you kick field goals. This whole idea of establishing the run, in 1954, it pissed off Sid Gilman. It's the most ridiculous thing of all. You never want to establish the run. You want to establish the lead. It's hard to turn the ball over when you're playing from behind. When you're in the lead, you can turn the ball over. That's why the most important stat in all of football is first half point differential. That's the most important stat in football. So whoever scores first, whoever goes into halftime with the lead, is really the team with the most advantage. And then that creates turnovers in the second half. Yeah, it's a Bill Walshism. I mean, Bill Walsh never wanted to establish the run. He wanted to establish the lead. Everybody thinks the West Coast offense is a series of plays, smash 7 curl, 20 bingo cross, flanker drive. It's not. It's about, we're going to throw the ball to get the lead, and then we're going to run the ball in the second half to keep the lead. So our goal is to go into halftime with a 10-point lead, so that our defense, which complements our offense, has pass rushers on it. And those pass rushers, because you have to throw it so much, are going to create turnovers. It's funny, I read a book once. It was working at the Patriots, and I read this book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And after I read the book, I brought it into Bill's office and I said, hey, you need to read this. You're Marcus Aurelius. I mean, this is truly who you are. This book defines you. I mean, the obstacle is the way. What stands in the way becomes the way. The ability to block out all the noise, the ability to focus your team, to really put your passion and energy into one job. And to me, that's what he is. And people take that as an offensive because he's not trying to be engaging, or he's not trying to be funny. He's very, very funny when you get to know him, and he's very engaging. However, his job is to win football games, and that's what he puts at the number one on the list. And I actually became friends with Ryan Holiday over this, because I wrote him an email after I read it. I said, you wrote the best book on Belichick. He didn't even know it. Check us out. We'll make you some money.